Two guys, one bench.
Shit talking, strength sports, combat sports. Game over. Welcome to Two Guys, One Bench, where we're 650 pounds of morbid obesity on a fucking small ass bench.
And we're talking more shit than Aussie Man reviews.
And that's a lot of shit, mate. A ding dong.
To fucking Outback Fight Day, here we have a human charging into battle like he's William Wallace. He wants to save his dog from a kangaroo. The kangaroo says, "Steady on, mate, we're in love. We're just having a bit of a hug in the bush. What's the problem, mate? Come on." Oh, but the human viciously throws a punch. Now he looks like he instantly regrets it. The dogs are running around saying, "We're not coming home with you, you abusive cunt." If you weren't aware of the whole Brokeback Mountain love story going on between the Roo and the dog, you might say that this human was a hero, but that right there is an interspecies free love hate crime, and I will not tolerate it in my bush. I thought the kangaroo handled it well. He takes a hit to the jaw, and he's like, "WTF, you fuckknuckle. That was a bit of an overreaction. We were only hugging. What kind of dad are you gonna be once we start ass fucking? Anyway, better love story than Twilight.
Rant of the week. We're about to pop some caps.
All right, everybody. So my rant this week is fake ass natties. So that includes powerlifters, fucking bodybuilders, anybody in sport that's just claiming to be a natural athlete and isn't, because that's fucking bullshit. We see it all the time in our sport, powerlifting. There's guys out there claiming to be natty. We know fucking very well they're not. And that's bullshit. If you're really a fucking man, and you're really trying to do something that's, incredible without using drugs, Drell and I, we don't. And it's unfair when these fucking juice heads come in and set records that can't be broken, because there's no way we're going to get there without pinning our fucking assholes with trembolone sandwiches and fucking God knows what other decabolo. I don't even know the names of this fucking shit. Drell!
I don't really give a shit if someone's on gear, but if you're going to be being an untested fed, those guys I have full respect for. It's these fucks that want to cheat to win a $5 trophy. At the end of the day, you're not getting paid for this. So you're just going hundreds and $1,000s in debt so you can tell someone you want a local meet by cheating. So congrats.
I mean, yeah, we've had one of the biggest lifters in Canada a few years back get popped. And where is he now? Nowhere. We can't even hear about him. No one knows where he is. He's probably just fucking rifling down fucking truffles and fucking Subway sandwiches. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, our guest on the podcast today is an amazing guy. He tried both. He was a natty lifter, got only so far, and now he's decided to be competing in untested federations. And I have the most respect for Anthony because, he's manning up. He's not saying he's natty anymore, and he's smashing giant fucking PRs. So he has the experience, and you knew that he was a natty before because he's making these crazy leaps now. And much respect to him.
And for my round of the week, I want to talk about the bullshit feds that are allowing the cheating to go on. I know you think just because drug tested means drug free. That's really not the case. There's a lot of guys out there who could pass a drug test if you give them a date, and they can clean up for that. They can get so much higher, get their strength super high that even if they lose a little bit, they're going to smash you on lift day. And what's really unfortunate is there's some feds out there that allow people that are on testosterone replacement to compete against you. Oh, my testosterone's low. You're 30 years old, but I guess you should be dialed up. It's not fair because everybody's got different levels. Just because your testosterone's not as high as someone else's doesn't mean, I should be on an exemption and get to lift shit that my body naturally wouldn't be able to do. But feds are going to help certain people cheat because it makes them look better because they got more impressive lifters. Or they'll have people that they miraculously never pop for drugs when clearly these fuckers are on something.
Yeah, it's fucking just a brutal display of how, feds can pick and choose who they test, I believe. Some countries have more radical testing and it's government funded. Others just fucking, they don't give a fuck. It's so unregulated. And, it's making powerlifting basically a sport that'll never get in the Olympics because, too many people will get popped because it's just amazing how you can do out of competition testing and find that these people are on shit. So if you know the date of the meet and you can plan for it, it's very easy to pass a drug test. And that goes with fighting as well. In MMA, that's back in the old Wild West of UFCs. You know, they'd have the TRT Vitor and all these guys that were on shit. But even guys that were taking steroids, if they knew they just got tested the night of the fight, they could be on fucking everything and then pop clean if they just wean off of the right steroids. Well, yeah, same things happen in all these sports. So unless you have a government body, which costs so many dollars to just go and randomly test people for a sport that makes zero fucking money, then yeah, there's definitely some fuckery afoot. That's what we got our shirts on for this too. So yeah, quit fucking cheating and quit allowing that cheating in these federations. Boom.
Rant of the week. We're about to pop some caps.
Emo Strength Guys. You're at an RP12.
Alright everybody, welcome back to Emo Strength Guys. We must apologize, we've been away for a while, but being the top online coaches in the world, you know, we're very busy making spreadsheets and colorful charts to help our clients. Darrell!
Yeah, sorry for being away for so long, but I'm glad we're back now, rocking deep V's and even deeper insight.
Yeah, you know, if you're not wearing a V-neck, what the fuck are you doing? You're not a good coach. But anyways, in today's segment, we're going to talk about Valsalvic breathing techniques. Darrell, do you use these often?
I prescribe them for all my athletes.
Yes, and in this video, as you can see, please watch. Now this man must be a powerlifter, judging by his front bumper proportions and also his shitty outfit. But that's not all that's shitty. That fucking fart was phenomenal. Darrell?
Obviously, he's bracing properly and bracing everywhere he should be, except for in his drawers where he probably filled them.
Yeah, I mean, his anus definitely wasn't using the Valsalvic pressure technique. You know, I like to think of a pop can. You know, a pop can, when it's not open, is very hard and pressurized. But as soon as you pop that tab open, no more pressure. Well, that little tab was his fucking balloon knot.
His fucking balloon knot.
And that is what fucking emptied his entire colon into his pants. Okay, Darrell, how would he maybe fix that little problem he has?
If he trained his male Kegels more often, maybe this doesn't happen as often.
Definitely. I prefer a Kegel set that starts a little small and goes up bigger and bigger. And you just try to hold it in there and squeeze as hard as you can.
Emo Strength Guys. You're at an RP12.
Guys, got a really great interview for you all the way from Australia. We got Anthony Krznar, and he's an amazing person to sit down and talk to, speaking about anything from mental health to competing in tested and untested feds, world records, and what's wrong with the sport today.
Yeah, I met Anthony 2018 at Worlds Virginia Beach, and he was a great guy just from the start. The whole team was awesome, actually. And, you know, he opens up a lot, just not about his lifting and going to untested, but also mental health and how he's been affected throughout the years. And to be that honest and in public with it, it takes a lot of fucking balls. And you must be hiding a pair under that beard as well as the ones below. But anyways, I think, you know, you're going to enjoy this fucking interview. He's an amazing guy and we love him.
Special guest, elite powerlifter, the Australian Yeti, Anthony Krznar.
All right, everybody, we're here live from Australia with one of my friends, Anthony Krznar. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no worries, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. I've been following you forever since we met in Virginia Beach 2018 at one of the world tournaments. And you're a great guy. The Australian team was amazing. All the energy. It was great to meet you back then and just staying in touch.
Yeah, it was good. Like, it was a lot of fun meeting. I remember when I first met you, you were training. You and the Canadian team were training at the gym we went to, and I walked out back, and you're sitting there. I think you were benching. I was like, "Oh man, that's a big guy." It's like massive, and like we have some pretty big super heavyweights here, but you dwarfed all of us.
Yeah, well, and then Jezza showed up, and
oh yeah,
yeah, that guy is awesome. Yeah, I've kept in touch with him too. So that's the beauty of powerlifting, is you just meet so many people when you go to these world tournaments, and they kind of stay friends and you keep in touch. It's awesome.
Yeah, just follow each other's training, see what they're doing. That's one of the reasons I love it, right? Is the community.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't met Darrell yet, but he's been killing it too. Darrell?
Yeah, I've been doing it about going on 3 years. Obviously, with the whole pandemic thing, not a lot of competing the last year and a half, but yeah, I started off in the 100% raw, and things were going pretty good. I was actually hoping to attempt your world record that you still hold in the total, but obviously.
Oh, do I have a world record? 100 raw. I didn't even know.
Yeah, you have a pretty big. It was like 852 kilo was the world record total. So I wanted to attempt that sometime this year, but there's been no meets for that in like a.
Man, that's a big total, bro. That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, not mine. I mean, you going for that, like, after only 3 years, that's massive.
Yeah, Darrell's he's a deadlift guy. He's well over 800 now on his dead.
Ooh.
And his other stuff's catching up.
Yeah, slowly. Everything else has kind of been a slower road, but it's because I'm kind of geared for it. I'm built like an ape with really long arms. So.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I use 800 pound. Anytime you get one of the lifts into 800s, it separates you, right, from your average strong powerlifter to now you're all right. You're on another level now. You're in the 800s. That's most people will never touch weights like that.
So I was wondering a little bit, like, what got you into powerlifting, and what was kind of your athletic background beforehand?
So I don't know what it's like in Canada. In Australia, at least at the schools I've been to, we don't have a big sporting. I don't really care about sport that much at a lot of our schools. So my sporting background is real minimal. Like, I didn't play a lot of sports growing up. Played a little bit of rugby here and there, just, at school games and stuff. But I got into lifting at like 17. I lifted for a year, and I had these dreams of being a bodybuilder. I used to watch Ronnie Coleman videos and Branch Warren videos. But I got some bad advice. I pretty much just starved myself down to like 80 kilos. Felt horrible. Yeah, I was a skinny boy then. And then I started working full-time at 18, so I stopped training completely. And then I was working at a casino, and I was, almost 21. And my boss at the time, he was a powerlifter. He'd done powerlifting. His dad was a weightlifting coach. And he got me. He's like, hey, you always talk about training, because I was always that guy. I want to get back into lifting. But I was doing 70-hour weeks. I just didn't have the time. I was always too wrecked. And he's like, hey, how about you stop talking about it? You come to the gym with me after work. We'll go train for an hour. So he introduced me to powerlifting style training. Like, the first time we did a deadlift, like, we went in, I did 200 kilos. And I was like, hey, this feels pretty good. Like, I might stick with this. And I mean, the rest is history. He introduced me, and then I moved to England a little bit after that. Just got sick of, doing the 70, 80-hour weeks, needed a bit of a break. And the first gym I walked into had a bunch of IPF lifters there, like a small group, like 4 or 5 of them, and they took me under their wing, coached me, helped me out. So not a great sporting teenager. I played a lot of video games, but then, fell in love with powerlifting because I knew someone that had lifted in it, and their dad coached weightlifters.
So you said the first time you deadlifted, you pulled 200 kilo?
Yeah.
Jesus, that's not normal, man.
No, I'm pretty lucky, man. Like, I started with like a 180 kilo squat, 200 dead, and like a 100 kilo bench.
Jeez.
And that was at about 100 kilos, 105 kilos I would have been.
Wow. Well, yeah, you had some natural strength there for sure.
Yeah, pretty lucky.
Yeah, we knew that when I lifted with you down in the States. I was like, shit, this guy's strong. How did he do it? But yeah, I think it's the beard is a lot of the
Yeah, it's like I'm like Samson, right? I actually trimmed it once, so that's when I tore my quad.
So yeah, we've been watching you. You know, you were lifting in IPF and then World Powerlifting, and then I saw you go from like being heavier. Were you super heavyweight at one point, or?
Back in the day, yeah, before you met me, I think I pushed just above 300 pounds.
Yeah.
So I was sitting at like 145 kilos, but I'm only 5'11".
Yeah.
And that was as a, natural lifter, and really didn't feel good. So that's why I came back down to 120 or like, 275.
Yeah. And then, I saw you trimmed down. So I was like, that's pretty cool. I might try that one day.
Yeah, for me, man, it's just a quality of life different. Like, yeah, I'm happy. Like, I was happy with my body and that, but I tell you, I didn't realize after being super heavyweight, because I obviously had undiagnosed sleep apnea, and I was like, oh, I feel awake all the time now. I'm not like nodding off while I'm driving into work and stuff. So it felt good.
Yeah, I just got a CPAP to avoid that weight
loss.
Yeah. I saw your friend as well. We met at Worlds here in Calgary. Tony, don't know how to pronounce his name either.
Rhinmouth.
He was an animal.
Yeah.
But he was super heavy then, and now I saw he's cut down a lot.
Yeah, so he's he'd be at 280 something pounds now. He's cut a lot. He's doing well. His lifts obviously have taken a bit of a hit, but they'll come back. Like, obviously he's lost about 35 kilos. So what's that, like 90 something pounds? Yeah. So his lifts are taking a bit of a hit, but again, he feels healthier. He's more confident. And that's, after a while, that's what it's about, right? Like, you got to choose. You don't have to, but a lot of the time it comes down to whether you prefer feeling better and looking better, or whether you want to stay super heavy and keep pushing those massive numbers, which obviously you can't tell someone what the right answer is, but Tony made his decision and he's loving it. He's loving his life now.
Yeah, when we saw him, I remember I actually just pulled my first ever 350 kilo deadlift, and I felt like the man. And then the super heavyweight flight came out, and I heard 350 kilo opener squat. And I was like, what the fuck did I just hear? And I remember watching him speed squat it, and everybody in the crowd was like, oh my God, what did we just watch?
Man, he is a freak with the way he squats. Hey, like, it's just so quick.
400 kilos, it was just like, just as fast as you can go down and bounce off.
Yeah, it's nuts. Hey, I watch, like, I hate spotting him because I'm like, he moves so fast. If something goes wrong, it's going to happen like so quick. But it works for him, man. And he's perfected it. He's one of those few people that can just, again, he also squats high bar. That's all when he did his 400, he did it high bar. Like, he's just built for it, but it's something else, man. There's no fear there.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't talk to him much, but over the years, talked to him on Instagram, and he just seems like a farm guy or something. That's what I like. Typical in Canada, you see a guy like that guy's been throwing bales around.
Yeah, honestly, that's what it is, man. He lives in the country and everything. Like, he works on cars, like physical job. He did that when he was young. He's just corn-fed, country strong.
What is it, do you think, that makes the Australians, for the most part, if you look in pretty much any federation, whether it's IPF or something outside of that, every meet, if you see an Australian lifter, they're strong as fuck. Like, what is it about the community that you think breeds those elite lifters?
Oh man, I don't know. Like, I don't think there's anything special about being Australian. Like, we're actually quite small on powerlifting, like with actual numbers. I think when people get into powerlifting in Australia, not all the time, but a lot of the good lifters have been in it for a long time. And obviously that's such an important thing in powerlifting is time and longevity. And a lot of coaches really push for that, not going too crazy too early, taking your time. So I think, like, a lot of these people you see, like Tony has been competing for like 7-8 years. I don't know if you've met Cam Mackenzie. He totals close to 900 kilos at 120 natural. But he's my age, but he's already been lifting for over 10, 12 years. So a lot of it comes down to just longevity. And then also there's a really big push, especially in powerlifting Australia, which was associated with 100% raw. They really push people to compete internationally. So, if you're strong, you don't need to be the strongest, but they'll get them to compete internationally. So we have it looks like we have more lifters than we really do, but it's good, right? Like getting people out of their comfort zone, and we have good representation at all these big comps. So I think it's more that, man, that even though we don't have a lot of lifters, we have a lot of lifters that compete overseas. We have a lot of lifters that have been lifting for a long time. Like Liz Craven, I remember you met her at 2018. She's an absolute beast, but she's been competing for ages, right? So I think it comes down to that. And we have a lot of good coaches here that not a lot of people know about. But we're also, I've been coached by a couple Americans now, and I'm back to being coached by Australians. Again, it's not all Americans are like this or anything, but I noticed there's a lot more emphasis with the coaches I've worked with here on longevity over just going balls to the wall, lifting 100% all the time, doing top singles all the time, stuff like that. And I think that breeds good lifters. It just takes longer, but then the numbers are big because you're not getting injured. You're not having to take months off at a time. Yeah, for sure. And then you just recently came off a pretty awesome meet. I saw you getting ready for that, and it was looking like it might not happen. There was a
5-day lockdown,
some lockdown stuff going on, a snap lockdown or whatever. But then you managed to pull off a pretty awesome meet, in my opinion. I know it wasn't everything that you wanted, but it's crazy the numbers you put up anyways. Cheers, bro. It was like, obviously training was interrupted and that, but look, at that level, right, you miss one lift and there's 40 kilos gone off your total, and that's how it played out at the end of the day. I wanted 1,010 to 1,030 kilos. We ended with 970, but I only went 6 out of 9, so my deadlifts were real easy. They were over 800 pounds, but obviously grip, I locked it out and then grip gave out. But we figured out the problem. It's not actually just grip, it's that I have really bad supination. So you can see I can't turn my palm all the way up. So we're going to work on mobility, fix that. And squats, honestly, man, are just nerves. Like first comp in over 2 years. So just misgroove that 420. But, that's what it is. Powerlifting, right? You only get one crack at it on the day. You come back from it, use it, assess the data, and fix it. Wow. So you actually attempted a 420 squat. Crazy. I didn't see that. Yeah, I hit it in the gym 2 or 3 weeks out really comfortably. So if it was a good day, I probably would have gone for like 430. Wow. But again,
I was keeping up with your progress leading up to that and seeing all your big lifts and everything. And just as someone coming from someone who's never used reps, and I don't know if Russ has used them ever, how do you exactly program wrapped work? How do you know what's the right amount? Is everything just RPE based?
Well, yeah, it comes down to individual. Obviously, when you've got a set point, you can program it percentage wise, right? But because I'm still quite new to wraps, a lot of it was more RPE based, and we didn't really have a set max. So my max we had in is 370, but then the top singles I was doing were 400. I was doing doubles at 380, hitting 420 a few weeks out. So a lot of it was RPE based because I was learning to use them. So obviously the more efficient you are in wraps, the more you get out of them. So when I started them, I get 5 kilos because my form was trash. Now I probably get about 20, 25, maybe give or take. I don't really know the exact number. So a lot of that was RPE based, but now that I know how to use them and I can squat efficiently in wraps, it'll be percentage based. So programming is much the same, man. Just like you'd program top sets and back off for people, you do the same. So if I'm in off season now, so I'm not using them, but say come next comp, we put my max in as 420, I'll hit some top sets and then say I do my back offs in sleeves as a percentage of my sleeve max. So it's real simple, just like you'd program slingshot work, right? You're just using an inflated max for those specific sets.
Okay.
I see. So yeah, so from going from that, just knee sleeves to wraps, I mean, what kind of you said a 25 kilo roughly you can get a little extra on, or?
Yeah, I mean, some people get way more, man. Some people get less. That's where I think I'm at. I might get even a little bit more now. But I know people that get 40 plus kilos out of them, right? It all comes down to how the issue is you have much less margin for error though, because you're lifting super maximal weights. So you see my 420 squat, I missed a comp. I just rolled I sat a little bit too far forward and I couldn't recover it because it's more than I could do without the wraps. But yeah, I'd say I get at least a minimum 20 kilos out of the wraps I'm using right now. Because they're wrapped tight too. Like you can't bend your knees. Like if you've never been in wraps, you wouldn't understand. Then you put some on, you'd be like, oh, okay, I see where they're getting these numbers from now.
What's the recovery time like that? Like, do you have to cut down frequency if you're using wraps?
For myself, I've cut down, not frequency, I cut down volume a lot simply because I'm lifting so much heavier than I ever have, and recovery is obviously a lot harder. But yeah, so it depends on the individual, but you find when you're squatting 420 kilos, how many times can you really do that in one training cycle, right? So you just have to be a lot more conservative, again, because you're lifting above what you could raw, right, with sleeves on. So yeah, it does change that, but then I still do a lot of back off work. It's just a lot lighter because after you've had 400 kilos on your back, like, you're wrecked, you're mentally wrecked. So, you're a bit more conservative with your back off work as well. So for my peak, it was 1 or 2 real hard maximal sets. And the back offs, we're talking like 250, 260 kilos in sleeves, like work that it shouldn't even be work, right? For me. But just because they're so taxing with the top sets.
Nice. Another big transition you made since, I met you 3 years ago, you went from tested to untested feds. And would you want to go in just a little bit about the change there? And I've seen you, like, your lifts have gone crazy, like explosion. Like, you were strong before, but now it's like incredible how strong you are. It's great.
No, cheers, man. I'm always happy to talk about that. I'm pretty open about everything. So initially I switched. It was always a plan. So it's not like it was only because it was medical. Like, I always had planned. It was just a matter of when, not if. But I actually got some bloods done. And as we know from my social media, I suffer from pretty bad, like, depression and anxiety, or did suffer really bad. And I was on a lot of meds. So I went and got my bloods done a few times, and I had really, really low testosterone. Now, we don't know the exact reason, whether that was because I used to be, pretty big drinker and partier. We're not quite sure. But that was the initial reason, was to get on TRT and see if it helped my mental health, which it did. It helped me with my anxiety and stuff a lot. And then obviously you're in untested, so you're going to do what you do for comps. So it's not just TRT all the time. So yeah, that did make a big difference. It's been interesting. I know it's one of those things where, so what was the question? Did that play any part being a good tested lifter? Like, I progressed really fast because obviously I was a high level lifter tested. But yeah, it's been crazy, man. It's almost like, when you start lifting and you can just add weight to the bar every week. Yeah. Well, when I first started in untested, that's what it was like. It was like getting noob gains again. So I went from squatting 320 to 330 to 340 every week. I was just adding weight. I was like, this is ridiculous, right? Like, same as my bench. My bench has jumped up over 40 kilos, in a year. So it's been a really interesting change. And people, if they say you don't get that much out of it, are either bad responders or they're lying.
Yeah, I just, even though, you went to untested, I want to say that some guys don't wait, and some guys just jump on it at a young age. Like, we interviewed Brandon Allen, and he was just like, he's been on it since he was 18, basically, and never really did it right. And he had people telling him the wrong dosages and everything. He was just basically running some super heavy, steroids. And then, you never know how strong you are naturally, but I saw how strong you are naturally. And then, that experience with the extra help has been incredible, I think.
Yeah, and I think you hit with the jump. Sorry, with the jumping on early is something. It's a really big issue, right? So there is something to waiting for as long as possible, but there's also, just like with training, you don't start off doing the most possible volume you can, because then where do you go, right? You always got to, over time, do more. You need to train more. You need to train a little bit harder. You need to do more volume, and it's the same with being an untested lifter with all the supplements. I say in quotation marks, right, with all the sups. If you start off at a really high level, really high dose, the only way you can go really is up. So you see a lot of people come on, and a lot of it, all this information we have on the internet and people being open is really good, but it's also a curse, because you get these young people or these new people come in and go, well, so-and-so says I could do a gram of testosterone and be fine and be safe and I won't get side effects. So they start off on a gram. Well, I can tell you, I haven't touched that myself, and I'm totally, I'm looking, at 1,000+ kilo totals, and I'm on a lot less than people start on. Because if you start low, and every time you add in a little bit, you're going to notice that, right? But if you start off really high, you get this big initial boost, but then where do you go from there? And that's something that I find a lot online with people, and not, I'm not someone that does drug cycles for people. That's not what I'm about, but there are people that do that. And if you go to someone that's smart and actually cares about your health and your safety, like the people I work with for myself, that's how they're going to start you off, again, because we're in it for longevity. And as much as I love lifting heavy, I want to total, I'd love to total 1,100 plus one day. And that I've got some pretty big goals in lifting. But I also want to have kids, and I want to be there for my kids when I'm in my 40s and 50s. I want to see them graduate from school and get married, so I'm not willing to die at 50 or 55 just to lift some heavier weights.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it makes sense because it echoes a lot of the stuff that Brandon Allen was talking about, how he said he wished he knew from a younger age, because there was obviously no Instagram back then, that he wished he knew he didn't have to do everything. Like he said, he did a cycle at 18, but then didn't touch it when he was in college, and he finished his working out days in playing football. So that obviously built a great base, kind of like what you did. Obviously, you weren't touching it at a younger age, but you built that athletic base beforehand so that you had something to rely on. I find with social media nowadays, since information is so widely available, that these kids are like, well, this guy's on it. I'm the same height. I'm the same weight. I can do that too. It's like, it's not that simple. These kids, one, they don't realize a lot of these fuckers lie about what they do.
100%.
Because guys will always lie and say they take less than they do, so it seems more impressive. Because we see it with natural lifters. Natural lifters will tell you that, I've only been training for a year or 2 years. But dude, I've seen your Instagram. You've been doing this for 5-6 years.
And a lot of it comes down to ego, right? And being too prideful, because, squatting 400 kilos isn't good enough. I need to squat 400 and be on less than everyone and have trained less than everyone else, right? And it's a really weird ego thing people get. And even it's so easy to fall into that trap. And a lot of it is because you do see online, you see the freaks. So people feel like they need to lie to compensate because it's not impressive otherwise, right? I mean, you got, what's that IPF guy? He's like 18, 19, Joseph Penner. I don't remember his
I know who you mean. Penner. Yeah.
Well, he's like 18, squatting 440, 430. So people are intimidated by it. And I think people let their ego get in the way a lot of the time. I don't see the point in lying. You do a lot more damage, but also you're only lying to yourself in the end, man. That's why I've been pretty open. I don't do high dose or anything. I don't need to. Will they go up in the future? Well, of course they will. That's just what you need to do to progress. But if you can slow that down and really do it as smart as possible, that's what you want to do, and work with someone that has your health in mind. But yeah, it is interesting how what people will lie about, right? But I remember people used to think I lied about being natural when I was totaling 850 plus. And then I actually switched and I had this big program. They're like, oh, maybe he wasn't lying.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you used to have a podcast. I don't know if you still do, but you talked about guys hitting 700 plus squat, being natural or not, and dispelling that rumor that you can do it with being natural. So that was pretty awesome. And I just find that I have way more respect. Darrell and I train with strongmen now and people in untested federations, and we're joining a federation that has both. And it's way more respectful to have two options, I believe, because a lot of them are people are lying in these natural leagues, and it just pisses me off. And I know you used to call out guys all the time.
Man, I know. Yeah, there's that big Canadian lifter, and I have, again, obviously nothing against PEDs. Canadian sucks. So it's one of those things though where I always say this, where we have this luxury of being in a sport where you can compete on PEDs openly, and you don't even need to talk about it, but you need to be an extra big piece of shit to then go and cheat, right? For a trophy. That's all we're getting. Maybe the big untested comps, some of them have prize money. But I mean, you're cheating in the IPF for, a bit of clout and a trophy. You're despicable if you're doing that. You know what I mean? Because we can compete untested. And that's, I think, is the Fed IPL that you're competing in now.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like an affiliate of it. It's the CPL. It's just the Canadian division.
So they've just started up in Australia. We've got the APL now. The same thing, like tested and untested, which I love. Like I've got lifters that are going to be competing there soon. And I've got lifters that'll compete. They're tested and untested. But I think that's awesome. You can all compete together. In the end, we're all doing the same sport. We're just choosing to go down different avenues on the tested or untested side. It doesn't need to be us and them. You know what I mean? We're all just trying to get strong in our own way. Obviously, there are differences. So, you know, someone that squats 350 kilos naturally is always going to be super impressive, stuff like that. So you don't want to, if you're natural, you don't want to have to compete against a guy blasting gear, but, you know, we can all compete on the same platform because in the end, it is the same sport. When we have the same goal, we just choose to reach it through different avenues.
Yeah. And honestly, I respect whatever someone's going to do, whether you're on gear or you're natural. I'm 100% cool with it, but what we're not cool with is when guys are clearly on shit and competing for, like you said, these $2 trophies. It's like, so you're going to go on thousands of dollars of shit throughout the year to win a $2 trophy?
Oh, it makes me sick, man. It makes me sick. Like, I don't know how you justify it in your head. Like, you know, you probably see on my Instagram, I'm a pretty honest person. And I don't know, man. You have to have like way too much ego, way too much pride, like an unhealthy amount of ego and pride to be cheating in this sport. Like there's something wrong with you. You need to go see a psych or something. Honestly, like there's obviously something going on upstairs that you need help with if you're willing to cheat in a sport where there's so many avenues where you can do untested. Again, it's the lying. I don't know, man. I can't relate. I don't understand it. Obviously, I've dealt with mental health and that a lot, but that whole like side, that narcissistic side, and I don't get it. Like, it sucks.
Yeah, for sure. So you touched on a little bit before about mental health and, you know, increasing your tests back to normal or a little bit more has definitely helped you. But you want to go on a little bit about, you know, what you suffer from a little and how you've been able to kind of mitigate those symptoms?
Yeah, so I have pretty bad generalized anxiety disorder. I've also got like ADHD and stuff. So it's just this whole cluster of things going on upstairs. I had really bad depression, but that was more of a side effect of the anxiety because I couldn't go out and see people, couldn't leave my house really, I was very uncomfortable doing anything. So that was more a symptom of my actual mental illness, generalized anxiety. How did I overcome that? Well, even though it shouldn't be your first, and it wasn't my first, the thing I tried, but medication helped a lot. It helped me open up to getting help as well and being comfortable, like coming back to work and talking to people. Therapy is really important, but then also making lifestyle changes, something I talk about a lot, and little changes though, right? Not big changes all at once. It's not sustainable. It's not comfortable. So little changes. So, you know, my anxiety got so bad, I wouldn't do anything except I'd go home, I'd go coach. I'd struggle to do that. I'd go home and I'd sleep, or I'd drink and I'd sleep. So making little changes, like slowly doing more and more, coming out of my comfort zone, working with a therapist and being on medication are all things that help me a lot. One thing that people don't realize though is, and you see it a lot, because obviously I have a lot of people talk to me about mental health, and you see in my Q&As, I get a lot of questions about it. And it's not bad, like it's not their fault, but a lot of the time people, they get off put because it's such a long process. So it's taken me years and years of battling to get to this point where I'm at now, where I can talk about it openly and I feel good. You know, I still have bad days, but I don't have bad weeks or months anymore. Like I'm doing really well with my mental health as a whole, but that's taken years and years, and that can be quite off-putting for some people. But so they just don't do anything. And, you know, I was talking about this with someone the other day, and they're like, oh, but what's the point? Like, I'm going to feel like this for ages. And you're like, yeah, but, you know, in a year, you could feel way better, or in 10 years, you could feel exactly the same, right? Like, you start taking little steps to making progress and getting well, and that chips away. And in a year, you won't even recognize yourself. So right now, a year feels like a long time. But if you've been feeling like shit for 5 years, it's not that long. Do you know what I mean? But drilling that in and getting that through to people is really hard. So what do you do as a coach? Like for myself, I just help them do that without letting them, they don't realize it. So when you get someone to come in and train 3 days a week, well, there's a step towards them getting better, right? When you get someone to start showering every day, before they come to training because they can't do that. Their mental health's so bad. There's a step towards getting better. And then in a year, you know, they're showering, they're training 3-4 days a week. They're going out social events with the gym. They're a completely different person. They didn't even realize how much work they had to do to get there. So a lot of the time, the idea of having to do everything is a big burden for people. So you just put it into small bite-sized pieces. How do you eat a steak? One bite at a time. And that's what I did for myself.
Yeah, it makes sense because really anything achievable isn't going to happen overnight. Like nothing worth of any value is going to come to you really quick. It's going to take time. And like you mentioned, it can be discouraging to some people, but there is a better way if you work on it bit by bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like I remember being told the medication I'm on, it's just an SSRI. I'm on a really low dose now. And, but they were like, oh, the side effects are going to be really bad for 4 to 6 weeks. You get bad depression. And I remember someone being like, are you sure you want to do that? And I was like, mate, I've been living like this for like 10 years. So I'm sure I can deal with 6 more weeks. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure I can push through like one final push. But obviously when you're in the thick of it, that can be quite hard to see, right? When you're in the deepest pit of it, it can be hard to see out of that. So sometimes you need help.
With you and dealing with anxiety, what's personally harder for you? Preparing for a meet or like the day before and the meet?
Honestly, the day of the meet's the hardest for me. And that first squat is the hardest, but I've gotten really good at people like, oh, aren't you competing next week? I'm like, yeah, like I just don't think about it now. Otherwise I don't sleep. So it's easier. Like I do my training, I focus on my sessions, my nutrition and everything. I don't actually think about the comp day. I've just been really good. For me, that's what I have to do. I know that's not the norm, but I just like compartmentalize that. I don't think about it. Otherwise I lose sleep and I get stressed. I can't eat. So I just like take it one training session at a time. And then on the day I try to think about, and what I tell my lifters is the competition's your reward. That's where you get to max out. That's where the hard work comes together. Now, you could tell yourself that 1,000 times, doesn't change your feeling, but if it can help you manage the nerves coming in, then, you know, that's worth it. But for me, I just don't think about it, honestly. I remember my missus talking to me about it, and I was like, oh, no, we're not thinking about competition. That's a week away. Like, I'll worry about that on the Sunday.
Yeah, I can relate to you with the anxiety. I went through a little patch of that when I was in Japan, and I was still fighting and competing and sparring a lot with, you know, professional fighters. And I think I was at a high fight or flight kind of mentality that I started getting these weird panic attacks when I was driving. And there was always earthquakes and shit in Japan. So whenever I went over a bridge, I was just like, oh shit, there's the bridge.
This is it. Like, yeah, it's not right.
It was also when I was cutting weight a lot too. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it was definitely, I can relate. Like you just feel this sense of like, you know, crazy panic, you know, and you just can't get out of the zone.
Well, you got to think it's all stress, right? You're cutting weight, you're getting hyped up for fights, and that's all stress on the body, and the mind. So all of that obviously adds to that.
Yeah, so it's definitely what I found was, you know, I didn't really have an option out there in Japan. I did, but I could have gone to a Japanese counselor. But I just got these self-help kind of tapes or whatever. I listened to them on my drives home. Just the biggest thing is just being present. And like you said, don't think too far into the future. That's anxiety. When you're always thinking about, you know, 5 days ahead of you, or depression, it's kind of like you're always thinking about the past and how much of a piece of shit you were. So live in the present, be in the present, enjoy now. Like, don't think about too far ahead, and just being able to compartmentalize those thoughts is what I found got me out of it. I don't have any of those problems anymore.
Yeah, I'm glad, man. That's awesome. Yeah, and you touched on a good point, you know, being present, and also you don't need to do everything at once. And this is kind of like when I say getting better with mental health, getting better healing, right? You don't need and managing mental health. You don't need to do everything at once. So I see this a lot, obviously, with coaching, but obviously when you work with people, they're like, oh, I've got to do this job, this job, this job, this job, and this job. Where do I start? What do I do? And you're like, all right, man, just pick one and start on it, and then worry about the rest later. They do one at a time. Like, you know, just break it down into small pieces, and that's how I very much try to live my life, right? We worry about one thing at a time. So I don't care about comp. I want to get this 400 kilo squat that I need to do in training out of the way first. You know, I might have a one-on-one in 2 hours, but I'm not going to worry about that. I've got to do this person's program first, right? So it's just, about breaking everything down. And because a lot of it you see is like, like you said, you're stressing about everything and thinking 5 days ahead, and we'll just worry about what's right in front of you, or put something right in front of you to work on and just chip away.
Yeah, 100%. Well, man, it's been awesome talking to you. I mean, there's so much info we just jammed into our ears here and for the audience. But I just want to thank you for jumping on the podcast. I know you're a busy guy and you're on the other side of the world in Australia. So it was awesome to coordinate with you.
No, thanks so much. Sorry about, I know it was pretty hard to coordinate, but running the gym's busy.
It's a good thing, man. And how does, people listening in, because I know you're a great coach and you're great at programming and everything, and you do international clients. So how can they get a hold of you?
So the best way is to either just hit me up on Instagram. I might take a little respond because my DMs are usually pretty flooded, but it's the Australian Yeti. Or you can just email me. That's where I'm most responsive because I only use it for work. And that's just anthony@apexstrength.com.au.
Perfect. Awesome. I'll put up those details right here for you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. This was awesome.
Yeah, man. We'll have to get you on again after a big meet.
Yeah, I think the next big meet. I think the next meet I'll do is probably I think they're talking about running a big dogs this year. So I'll probably just do that as a light. Like I'll probably compete at like 130 or something. Light. Still like 280 pounds, but like I won't blow out. But that'll be a big one. So that'll be good because that's a really big comp, right? So, and I do perform better in front of a big audience. I'm a bit of a showman while I compete. You see at my comps, I'm like, yeah, what's up? Like, let's go. So that'll be fun.
Perfect, man. Well, great talking to you, and
right.
Talk to you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, best of luck to you.
You too.
Special guest, elite powerlifter, the Australian Yeti, Anthony Krznar. Coming after you, perverts.
Hey, gorgeous, how you doing?
Keyboard creepers.
All right, guys. Now time for some keyboard creepers. Last week, we debuted the segment, and it was a huge hit. We got a bunch of DMs sent into us, actually, showing us more creepy shit that guys say to women on the internet, and it's kind of mind-boggling.
I mean, we got one we can't even repeat. It was so disgusting, and we don't want to broadcast it, and we laugh about it, but it is fucking amazing and disturbing how many messages these women get on Instagram just for, having a post where they're in, lingerie or even, working out. It's fucking controversy that we got to display and show you guys. This one's not so bad, but there's still, you can see the douchebaggery out there. And these guys, even when there's a boyfriend involved, they don't give a fuck. They'll still slide in your DMs. Check out this motherfucker. Ugh.
You are just beautiful. I want to get to know you too much. I want to know you without subscribing, princess. Just because there's a goalie doesn't mean you can't score a goal.
All right, where to begin on this, dumbass? Trying to impress a girl and get to know her by also admitting you're a cheap fuck. That's definitely going to go a far way with a woman you've never met. And then throwing in a smart ass line like, oh, there's a goalie, doesn't mean he can't score. Yeah, that's funny when you're 14 and maybe know the person, not when you're in your 20s and 30s and messaging randoms online.
Yeah, I mean, this girl has an OnlyFans, and it is what it is. But that's the place where you might go and be more of a pervert, and you have that option. At least you're paying her some money. Where this fucking sicko just wants some free a fucking verbal dick down, and it's fucking terrible. And this guy deserves to be outed, but we're not gonna. But there's pieces of shit out there every goddamn day putting this shit in DMs. Boom!
Coming after you, perverts.
Hey, gorgeous, how you doing?
Keyboard creepers.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Anthony Krznar. Tune in next week when there's going to be more shit talking and maybe some more pervs, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows, motherfuckers? But there's definitely fuckery afoot everywhere we go. And if you like these t-shirts, check out this link. Boom, and pick one up for yourself. And don't forget to eat big.
Train hard.
And always be ready to knock out a creeper.
2 guys, 1 bench. Shit talking.
Strength sports.
Combat sports.
Game over.
Resolute. Prepare yourself for battle. Bridge City brand. The Gilded Beard. Sculptech. SMP industry leader. Choices and consequences. Misfit. Powerlifting motivation. With Jana. Her lifting inside edition. Generation Strength Coach. Discover your power.